Ladies and gentlemen, Blind Melon!
From the bench to the bleachers, you are listening to the only podcast in Ontario that keeps you in the game.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, let's do this.
My next guest is from Pennsylvania and is the guitarist from the band Blind Melon. I'm talking about Christopher Thorn. Christopher, you are in the game.
Hey, Christopher, how's it going?
How you doing, buddy?
Not bad. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Yeah, so I got a new set of headphones here. I actually had to steal from my my little guy his gaming headphones because my other one's broke. But hopefully I can hear you all right. I am hearing impaired, so that's one of the reasons why I have the headphones so that I can actually hear a little better when you're talking. But
Sure.
So how are things in the desert, man?
Well, I feel happy to be here because it just feels a little bit better being spaced out here, So I absolutely love it out here. It's my favorite place I've lived in a real long time. So
Yeah, I noticed that you had, I guess we'll start kind of the interview off with your studio. I noticed that you had the studio for a while, but you relocated out to Joshua Tree, correct? How long ago was that?
that was about 2 years ago. Well, I brought the gear out here. I still have my studio in Silver Lake, which is Los Angeles. And I rented out that studio to another producer named Kevin Ratterman, who does great work. So he's in that studio in LA. I grabbed all my gear because he had amazing gear that he brought into that studio in Silver Lake. Brought all my stuff out here about a couple years ago. So I've been cooking out here for a couple years.
Yeah, from what I've seen, it's pretty a unique environment where you are in Joshua Tree. Some of the photos I'm seeing, some of the nature, the sunsets, the thunderstorms. You hear about the desert. It's funny. I had a conversation with Elmo Kirkwood with the Meat Puppets about the desert.
Your friend, I know those guys. Yeah, man.
There's just something about. I mean, I'm Canadian. I'm in the middle of Canada. I'm not out in the Midwest. It's near Toronto, so I haven't been to the desert yet. But you just hear stories about not getting lost, but just connecting out there. Is there something going on out in the desert, man?
There is, and I haven't totally been able to put my finger on it, but I do know this. I lived in LA for 20-something years, and then we bought a house out here about 4 years ago. We have 35 acres, so we have a lot of land and 5 buildings on the property. And I moved out here, and immediately in the first year that I was out here, I wrote more songs out here than I did in 20-something years in Los Angeles. There's something about the openness of the land. The desert is alien. You feel like you're on a foreign planet. And for me, I realized it has something to do with my line of sight. In Silver Lake in Los Angeles, everything's kind of closed in on you. So you kind of feel like you're just living like this at all times. Everything's around you. There's a house there and there's a car there. And out here, it's nothing but wide open. When I look out my door, I just see as far as I could ever see.
Yeah.
Something about that space to me made me connect with, I don't know, myself or whatever it was. And I just started, it felt like the songs were popping out of nowhere. It felt like they were like buried on my land. And if I just walked around, I could write a song. I mean, it was really a profound experience. And I work with other artists. When other artists come out here, the same thing happens. I work with Greg Dooley, and he comes out here. He doesn't even come in with songs. He just goes, I'll write something out there, man. Hook me up some gear.
Is it something, is it mindfulness? Like, is it just like, does everything just disappear when you're out there? Like, is that?
You're exactly right. You know what I say to people? I felt like I could hear myself for the first time in my entire life when I moved out here. I couldn't hear myself in Los Angeles. It was like, oh, hey, I got a meeting at noon with blah, blah, blah. And then I got to run across town and go to Guitar Center and buy some supplies. And then I got to have another meeting. You know what I mean? Just bam, 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 bam. Out here, it's like a pace that feels so kind and so peaceful. And we spend our time making great dinners. And, we go for walks, and I go for a motorcycle ride every day. And those things just allowed me to fucking hear my own self.
Yeah.
I just hadn't heard myself in a long time. And I think that's where all the songs came from. I think I was like kind of pent up,
Well,
and all these songs came out of nowhere.
and that's probably what's going on with society as a whole. We spend so much time about job, debt, cubicles, city life, right? And
True.
if I'm not mistaken, you're kind of close to where I'm from, meaning you're Pennsylvania, right? That's where you
Yeah.
grew up. So
Yeah.
so my landscape, we in our areas in Ontario, it's you've got farmland, you've got lakes, you've got some space, and I think people are falling out of touch with, like I said, mindfulness or nature, or you know what, life is more than just 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, and stress. And I think
I couldn't agree more. And you also said nature, and I want to add that into what I was saying too. Like, you live in LA and you're just not conscious of, it's like you have your head up your own ass and you only think we're humans out there. And you move to the country and I'm sharing this land with the coyotes and the rabbits and the desert hares and the birds and you know what I mean? And the roadrunners and I'm so conscious now, like I don't even kill a fucking bug when I see it out here. I'm like, man, I'm
you're
on
that
your
small.
property.
You're
I'm
that
this
small.
small. And you know what? You also did something. It actually gave me a goosebump because that's the other feeling when I first came out here. First of all, I never saw the sky in Los Angeles. So when you're out here and you're engulfed by this giant desert and all these animals are out here and the sky is enormous over your head, you feel less, you just feel very small. You know what I mean? And you feel like you're connected to, I feel like we're all in this together. Like I really feel that with the animals out here. You know what I mean? I feel like I'm looking out for them.
But being small, but you're meaning it. You're meaning it more like when you feel that small, you have a greater appreciation for things, and your mind also opens up more. Correct?
That's exactly it. And that's the feeling that I didn't have in Los Angeles because I was so consumed with my own drive and this meeting and that meeting and this, blah blah blah. And you come out here and there's just something about it, man. You really can connect with all those things we just talked about.
Has life been better for you since that move overall? I mean, even the family, like just life in general. Yeah.
100%. Like my son's homeschooled, and so we have 35 acres here, and I live over there, which is about 300 or 400 feet. This is a separate cabin studio. We have a couple other properties down there. But, I can take a break and go over and, make dinner for my son and hang out with my family. And so, yeah, life got way better out here because I just felt like I had more time for my family, and that was everything to me.
How unique is the studio there? Like I'm starting to see more of this type of thing going on now. Like you saw Sound City when Dave Grohl ripped out the stuff from there and moved it into his own garage or basement. And I'm, you know what I mean? Like when you guys played years ago with Blind Melon, when you first came into the scene, it was the corporate thing and the big, studios. But now I'm seeing success from guys like yourself on smaller personal studios that are, I would say, more authentic. They're not, you know what I mean? That they have their own feel to it. You either walk into your studio and you have, like you said, the mindfulness, the nature. You're almost in this trip, right?
Yes.
Or you go to this studio and it's a corporate cutout cookie box. Like, do you find that is the truth? Like that is starting to happen more? And are you finding that possibly it is affecting the music industry in a little more positive way because of people's creativity?
I think it is, and I think the whole the computer and the Apollo and ways now that we can make records in a house or in a bedroom. I think that's a great thing for songwriting because I think you have really pure visions because there used to be a gatekeeper. One, it was the record company. That's the gatekeeper. They pay. So you can go to an expensive studio, $2,000 a day, and then you're at a time, hey man, hurry up, man. You don't have time to work shit out. You know what I mean? It's expensive. So I think people making records in their own studios has had a great effect. And I think songs are more pure and they have less input from other people, which I think is a good thing as a songwriter myself. And I think all that is a really great thing. I don't like to be rushed in a studio. To me, time is everything. I also don't like them to look like a corporate office. I think you write your songs on your bed or in your living room in front of the TV. And I think a studio should kind of feel a little bit more like a home as opposed to like, oh my God, now I got to go into the studio and perform it. Like I want it to feel like hey, this is just like your living room, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. See, it's funny you brought that up because I've talked to a few artists, that have been around your time period from when you guys broke in, early '90s,
Yep.
mid '90s, and they're all saying the same thing. And they're talking about, I brought up the word because I'm also in the sports industry with the business I own, and I use the term commercialization or
Yeah.
mainstream, and
Yeah.
I think it's killed a lot of things.
It has.
And I think it was, like a lot of artists are saying. Brian Vander Ark from the Verb Pipe was one that said that their second album, they were 9 months overdue from the deadline, and all of a sudden the pressure from it was corporate, right?
Yeah.
Corporate. And I remember back in the day with Kurt Cobain, corporate. He used to, use the word corporate whore or corporate rock
Sure.
whore.
Sure.
And I'm kind of glad to see it being gutted because it's killed creativity. It has. Like if you've got somebody that says, you can't use the word rape on Rape Me, or you can't
Right.
use that image, or you can't do this, or this is how we want it. Well, you're no longer the artist, right? Because you're doing what the record company wants, and you don't have your creativity or your freedom to be, expressing yourself.
I agree. My favorite art is in its purest form. You know what I mean? Imagine if Picasso had, 10 other people he had to answer to. And someone's like, I don't know about that blue, man. Maybe that blue should be green. Can you imagine how fucked up the art would be? Or a Modigliani, or
we wouldn't be talking about them.
We wouldn't have their names. So I'm a real believer in real pure things. And like, I'll give an example. Like when I hear that new Fiona record, that sounds like a record that a girl made who wanted to make her own record. That sounds so pure to me in every way. It doesn't feel like a record company record. It feels like a pure vision. And I love when I hear that. I really respect that when somebody just stays on their vision,
Well, so when I connected with you, meaning as an artist, meaning on this side of the fence years ago, I had a lot of respect for you and the musical talent, meaning you guys as a band, yourself, even talking, even now, or even when Shannon was with the band, musically, you were underrated in my opinion. And a guy like yourself, mandolins, harmonicas, guitars, right? I mean, you were in the era of grunge or you got kicked in the face by Green Day or Offspring, and here you guys were kind of like this grunge rock blues jazz, like you know what I mean? And that's where I had a lot of respect for you. And what I didn't know about you, because I lost touch with music myself. You know what? Music is the food of life. That's one of the sayings I like to hear. And when I got caught to my 9 to 5 job, when I had kids, when I thought I had to do this and that to be something in life, music went to the wayside. And all of a sudden, the last 5 years, it's come back to kind of heal me. I had a lot of, everybody has things going on in their life, and it kind of was a healing thing. What I didn't know about you was, the producing and doing all that stuff. You work with some pretty good artists. I mean, you work with some Canadian guys. I think, Hedley. There was
Stone River. I worked on Stone River. Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of fans, like don't get me wrong. I hate using the word super fan, or I was a fan of yours and a fan of Blind Melons. Not a crazy person. I don't get into that. I get into, you're one of my top bands, you're on my playlist. But if you don't pay attention to everything and, read everything, I wouldn't have known that you were doing what you're doing. What got you into the studio and making the albums? Was that because of what happened years ago, or did you always had a tinkering for this and wanted to do it?
Yeah, good question. I would say so. Sometime around 93-ish, I was always the guy that had like a 4-track recorder, and I was always that guy from the early days. But at some point in Blind Melon, when we were touring, I was like finding artists along the way. And at some point, I built a studio. Back then, we didn't have laptops in the Apollo, so I had a studio that was 5 feet tall with a Neve and an ADAT, and it was huge. And I had that wheeled into my room every night on tour. And I started finding artists on tour, and I'd have them come to my hotel room, and I was getting people record deals. So I knew that was my next step. I knew I always wanted to make records. I also think I wanted a backup plan because maybe I saw the writing on the wall with Blind Melon. It was very, I just didn't know if I was going to have a band, the next day, many days. Yeah. So I think I knew that I absolutely loved making records. I also loved like finding young artists and helping them get a record deal because it made me feel less guilty for my own success in a weird way. Like I felt like I was giving back to somebody, and I always heard that. I always heard when you get to the top, you reach your hand down and you pull somebody up.
See,
And
you and me are the same, and people have commented about me being like that with the, now it's a sports industry because I grew up playing a minor pro hockey and in the business, but we're the same type of people where my wife says my biggest downfall is my heart and being a kind and giving person that a lot of people took advantage of me, right?
yeah,
And I got taken advantage of. But
yeah,
like you said, you see something and you go, man, that person just needs that one helping hand or that one reach of a hand. And I guess with you where you are now with the studio, plus having, like I said, Blind Melon, but I mean, you were live, Awolnation,
yeah.
you've got the connections and know people. So for you, when you see that artist, is that a chapter closing for you? Meaning when you can help somebody and you've done good for them, or you've reached out and maybe extended an olive branch, so to speak.
What do you mean by chapter ending?
So I have a lot of chapters in my life, and we'll discuss this later. Meaning you went through things in life, and to be able to accomplish or do something more or less put something to bed for you. If like you didn't lose sleep over it, but you were, by helping this person, and maybe you did get them on, helped you say, you know what, man, all those years that we went through with Blind Melon, and there were struggles, there was success, and then what happened with Shannon, and then what happened after, I'm just thankful to be here. And by me helping that person, it allows me to continue to keep moving on in life, so to speak.
That's exactly it. I
Right?
I just feel like I got to give. I've received so much in my career. I've been the luckiest motherfucker, man. I'm a kid
Yeah.
from Pennsylvania who should just have a regular job living in Dover, Pennsylvania right now. So I think, yes, I think there's something about that cycle of pulling somebody up and helping them up, and they're on their way, and then they tell someone else, and it makes me feel good. It makes me feel good, and I love that process because somebody did that for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like somebody did for me. And I want to say one thing about the record companies. We were really lucky in the 90s, back to sort of the corporate thing. I have to give props to Capitol Records at the time. The people who signed us were so amazing, and it was kind of unheard of, but they left us alone.
Yeah.
They left us alone. They said, oh, hey, you guys want to go live in Durham? We'll rent you a house for a few months. Go become a band. Go write your songs. They never discussed our songs with us. They never said, hey, you got to have a single. They never said, hey, can you change this one part? We were really lucky. I don't see that in major labels anymore at all.
And Capitol at that time, I mean, almost anybody would have been fighting with David Geffen, meaning Geffen had everybody from, Guns N' Roses, Nirvana.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
it was almost like when you had the next thing and you thought, these guys are, maybe that's where some of that leeway came. And you know what? I mean, people talk about Soup back when it was released. Well, now they talk about Soup and it's a whole different attitude.
Yeah,
Right?
I know. Isn't that funny?
Right. I
Yeah.
mean, and we change, right? We change
Yeah.
as people, right? I mean, there's probably stuff from the 60s and 70s that was put out that at the time you would have went, but then
Sure.
you look back now and you say masterpiece or brilliant,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Yes. So it's funny. So Dover, Pennsylvania. My parents now live in Port Dover, Ontario, so right across the lake on Lake
Nice.
Erie. But anyways, what for you, I want to take it back to the beginning. I gotta guess either you were really into music, or either you had musical influences or a family that was into music to be able to grab a mandolin, a harmonica, and a guitar to be able to multitask in the instrument. Did you have a musical family, or did you?
You
Pick
know
it up?
what? Just a little bit. My mother played in this band called the Marysville Sunday Night Pickers. And in the 70s, my earliest memories as a kid are my mom, like 4 or 5 other couples would come over to the house. And I was young and they'd kind of make me go upstairs, but I'd sit on the top stairs and listen to them. And they sounded like they were having the most fun of anything I've ever heard. And now I find out they were smoking a little weed and having a great time and they were laughing. And, of course, now I find out. And so that's my earliest memories, are hearing that bluegrass music downstairs, sort of folk and bluegrass music. So I was influenced by that. And my mother played guitar. There was a guitar around the house. And I just got the bug, man. I saw her playing guitar. My earliest memories are sitting there watching my mother, even as a 4 or 5-year-old, watching her sing these songs for me. So I was immediately blown away by music and touched by music. And I remember, here's a funny story. I remember at really young age, even before I could even play the guitar, when my parents would leave. Sometimes you play sick, from school. You just stay home. You just need a day off, right?
Yeah.
My parents go off to work. So I would I'll never forget, we had this giant stereo with a turntable, and I'd put on records, and I couldn't play guitar, but I would sit there and pretend like I was playing to people when they left. So it just was in me. It was just something I just knew. And I knew from a really early age, it's all I wanted. It's like I made a commitment from probably at 13 or 14, like, this is what I'm doing. I was so determined.
Well,
And
a couple of you guys in Blind Melon had that same attitude. When I heard previous interviews from a year or two ago, it was like, and that's obviously when the band ended, or kind of, in 95, 96 there. It was like, that's all I ever wanted. It's all I ever worked for. This is
Yep.
which is cool, because, you always hear about some people just stumble onto it and it's from a garage band and that's what it was. Other people had the aspiration to do that for a living. And obviously, like you said, you were influenced by, at a early age, the bluegrass and that type of stuff. Are kids missing the influence of older music? Like, when I put on MTV Unplugged Nirvana and I heard "Where Did You Sleep Last Night," I didn't know where that song originated from. I would have
Right.
been 14 or 15 at that time. Like, I'm 41 now. You and I have a few years apart. You were playing to me when I was a teenager, or mid-teens, right? So
Sure.
myself, I walked back and said, "Who the hell? Like, who is this Ledbetter? Like, who?" And then
Yeah, man.
right? So then you go back and you look and you're like, "Oh, it's a black dude from the
Yep.
30s, and he was in
Yep.
prison." And
Yep.
you start discovering that music. And my parents are in their mid 70s, so I grew up with Richie Valens, Big Bopper, Buddy Holly, Elvis Presley, the Beatles. I grew up from when they were kids all the way up into that 70s music. So I had that in my household, Fats Domino, Chubby Checker.
Sure.
And then again, even Kurt Cobain brought me back, like I said, to Velvet Underground or
Yeah.
Ledbetter. Kids, I don't think, are appreciating that. I'm not saying all of them, but
Yeah.
it just seems like we're missing that, and they wouldn't get, some of these artists, like Lady Gaga got her name from Radio Gaga from Queen. But
Exactly. Yep.
if you told that to some of these younger kids, they wouldn't really go back and appreciate it or figure it out. Do you think that's what's kind of missing a little bit in today?
I think that is missing it. And but we think so much alike, because it's so funny. I've had these conversations many times with people that I'm producing, and I don't get mad, but
No.
I get like, how do you not know? Like, you can't start. You have to know who influenced who you're listening to, and I think that's so important. And my son, I put my son not in that category, because he listens to more older music.
Yep.
Like, he loves Zeppelin. So I say, okay, great. You love Zeppelin. Now I need you to go back and see who Zeppelin loved when they were boys. You got to start with Little Richard. You got to start with Chuck
Yes.
Berry. You got to start with Elvis. So
Yes.
you could start with Zeppelin, but you got to work backwards. So you know their influence, then take the influence that they had on you and make something new. So I think you can't start with the Black Crowes and call that rock and roll. You got to go to the Stones, and then you got to go back to Chuck Berry, then you got to go back a little.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I'm a big believer in that. There was this show. This is kind of a funny, cheesy show, but there was this not funny. There was a show with Puff Daddy. It was a hip hop show. It was like 5 or whatever years ago. And I watched one episode, and he lined everybody up, and he started talking about the forefathers of hip hop. And it was a show that maybe either you were going to be his assistant or whatever it was. It was one of
Yeah.
those fucking shows,
Yeah.
And I remember he got so angry when people didn't know the forefathers of hip hop, and he said, "How can you even be here?" He got so angry. And I thought, you know what? I get that. That's a good point, man. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Oh,
If you're
yeah.
going to be a musician, and you got to know, man, you got to go back to the sources. I find that, I just got recently, 2 days ago, I read the article in Rolling Stone on Little Richard. And I went, man, I got to spend some more time with Little Richard. I've been listening to Little Richard the past few days, just going, man, it's ferocious. It's
Whoa.
ferocious.
And even like you said, Little Richard, like even if you're even talk piano players, like when you Jerry Lee Lewis, right?
Man.
See, I try to explain to people that why and how. So the history of music, how whether it's country and rockabilly, and it goes all the way up. But also back then, like now, it's harder to create a hit song or a hit record. When before, if it was only Elvis and Buddy and it was a certain style that you heard, that was it. It's like when you moved into the Beatles. Okay, you had the Beatles, and as the Beatles came, and you had Rolling Stones, and then things evolved into the Kinks and the Knack, Bay City Roll.
Yeah.
Everything exploded from late '60s to '70s to so many bands. Now, if you held on to that prowess, like Pink Floyd, Zeppelin. And then you got into the '80s, and you had your hair metal, but Guns N' Roses was that stronghold.
Sure.
And then we end up to where you guys are. And to be honest, for me, it's not because I was a teenager, but from maybe 91 to 97 or 98 had some of the most badass music, even if it was one hit wonders out of any decade. I can compare it to the '60s or the '70s. I thought it had whether it's Primus, Tonic, Sponge, you guys, like it went on, and it was variety. Even the Mighty Boss Stones,
man.
Like I mean, it was hardcore, but it was like ska, brass ensembles, right?
Sure.
So for me, the creativity level was off the wall, and the charts, but they all got it from where, right, Christopher? Like they all got it from or.
Yep.
Right?
Exactly. I think that stuff's important. I think it's important to know what was behind you to move forward.
Yeah, I mean, you can't, and that's maybe, like I said, that's the downfall of the music industry now. But I'm hoping and I'm praying that the pendulum swings back.
It always does.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of electronics. I never was. I was a fan of plug that shit into the amplifier, a tube amp, even, and a drums, and some of the stuff that you guys did, even like Kurt Cobain's early demos, where a lot of it, Something in the Way was in a bathroom with a beat up acoustic guitar, and Letters from a Porcupine with you guys. That recording, I don't know how that recording was done, but
I can tell you that recording was done. I was telling you about my recording studio. Well, I would just get phone calls in the middle of the night from Shannon saying, "Hey man, I got a new song. Can I come down?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude, it's 2:00 in the morning. Sure, come on down." He'd come down and he recorded that song. So it's
that I was walking to my mailbox today and I was thinking about that song and John Sinclair in my head, and I was like just the rawness. I mean, Shannon was raw on his own and so powerful and strong, but just the creativity of rawness. That's what I'm saying. It's gone today. Like that's not there to be able to do, and all of a sudden you start singing and
I know.
And some people will listen to it and go, "Fuck, what the fuck is it?" Like it. But I hear past the staticky part of the recorder.
Yeah, me too.
And I actually hear in a trance. I guess I'm in a trance, man. Like because you're caught in the moment and you go, "Oh fuck, that was good," right?
Yeah.
Somebody else will go, "What's that?" And I'm like,
"That
was brilliant." I mean, because 90% of the population couldn't do that.
Yeah,
on a whim, right? Like that's a whim. Like
man.
So,
straight up.
So let's talk a little bit about that. So obviously, before I get into your history, you and I, like I said, we seem to think a lot alike, which I appreciate it. You seem to be a Fender guy, which I was. That's actually my kid's little one-third scale. That's what I bought him when he was 7.
Nice.
But I see you seem to be a Telecaster guy.
I am.
Yeah, and what? It's got Telecasters to me. Have a deeper, richer tone, a blues, jazz feel to it. That's obviously why I think if you're playing some heavy, but like you said, more classical music, like jazz or whatever, you get that rich tone. How many tellies do you have, man?
You know what? It's so funny here. I'll show you. I got 3 of this. I love these tellies so much. I actually have 3 almost nearly, besides colors, identical versions of them.
Really?
And the reason why I like the telly. Oh, here's my studio. I'll give it a little more of a shot.
Yeah, man.
Oh, here I see the outside. Is this okay that I'm moving around?
Dude. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, I was talking to my wife about your studio, and I said it's got to be just paradise. Oh yeah, that's awesome. Oh yeah.
Galaxy.
Oh, dude, the Galaxy.
There's a Galaxy. That's Shannon's Galaxy, actually.
Is it his? Yes.
Yeah, I bought it after he passed away. So this is my whole property, and then here's the cabin we're looking at.
Oh, dude, yeah. I mean, how can you not fall in love, let alone?
I know, right?
Yeah, that's amazing.
Great.
That's a movie set on its own, eh?
Well, we do a lot of. Oddly enough, Bruce Springsteen came here, and the movie called Western Stars that's out.
Yeah.
He shot that here, and then he shot it at his house. The two scenes that you see are his house and my house. So anyway, back to the telly. So here's my studio tomorrow. But these guys right here, it's backlit. Let me put them in some light. But these, let me see if you can see.
Yeah, I can see them. Yeah.
I have 3 of Telly Customs, all the same.
Awesome.
And for me, the reason why I like these is this pickup configuration for me, because you got a humbucker. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
You got a humbucker. So it's basically a Les Paul, and then it's a single coil. So you have 2 guitars in one.
Yeah.
So, I always thought this Telly Custom was the perfect guitar because it felt like a 2-in-1 for me. So
now, is that what you've been using primarily all along since the 90s, or did you?
What? It's pretty simple. Like I used this one for the first Blind Melon record.
Yeah.
And the first tour, you'll see me that and everything.
Yeah.
This one also was always the open tunings.
Yes.
The red one. And then I would say starting at Woodstock 94, I bought this guitar right before Woodstock. And then since Woodstock, I've been playing this one.
Yeah.
Ever since. Yeah.
I saw that one.
Mostly because it's lighter. This one's lighter than this one. And at a certain point when you're standing up all day in a session, I just, and I'm, look at me, I'm 5'6",
Look at Brian May. Brian May talked about, when they talked about, I think his heart problems or whatever, or pinch nerves and stuff.
Yeah.
A guitar on your strap for 35, 40 years, right? On the
I can't play Les Paul because they're too heavy. And
they're heavy.
I look like I'm playing my dad's guitar because I'm too small for a Les Paul. They're like giant.
That's why Slash looked like a bodybuilder all the time, right?
Right?
Trying to lug that thing around all day long.
Totally.
Yeah. So I want to get into, it was interesting. You said like Woodstock 94, maybe I'll make the comment now before I forget about it. And some listeners, might laugh at me, but to be honest, Woodstock 94 for Blind Melon, or for what I see, I compare that. And like I said, some people, when they hear this, but I compare it to Queen's Live Aid performance.
Oh man!
For me, and the reason being is the emotion, the size of the freaking crowd.
Yeah.
I thought, like I said, you guys were on cloud 9. I thought with the playing, and Shannon's emotion. I mean, so when you guys played Change, you had what was his name? Clinch, the photographer.
Oh yeah, Danny Clinch. He's my best friend. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, you guys were just like, at that point through there, the crowd didn't even exist. It turned into a jam session. And you guys were just having the time of your life. The energy, it's about energy level.
Yeah.
And even though you guys aren't steadfast, constant rock, you're a different type of music, the energy level was still there. Soup, when you played Soup, there's a couple pans where Shannon's looking out to the crowd and he's touching his forehead, and I see deep thought. Like I see him, it's just naturally coming off his tongue, but it's almost like the emotion level. Like I said, that's Freddie Mercury with the emotion and learning how to draw the crowd. Now, like I said, it's a different crowd and it was a different feel, but to me, that performance was like, yeah, I mean, I hear so much about when you guys talked about, this night it was an awful performance or it was up. But I mean, I thought, you could listen to that whole almost, hour, and it was awesome. Like, I mean, just smiles, and I thought the crowd was into it. I never really seen too many people mosh or whatever to it, but you looked at it, and I mean, here they are throwing each other around a Soup, and I kind of chuckled. But to me, that performance for a band perspective was, it's on my playlist. I bought a brand new Dodge Challenger, right? I used to have a 66 Mustang. So I'm doing things for me now. So I just picked up my Dodge Challenger 2 weeks ago. It's got the racing stripes from the 70s on it.
Oh, awesome.
And the Woodstock playlist, like some of those songs are on my playlist. Cool. Right? I mean,
thanks for saying that. I appreciate that. I thought Shannon had an amazing night that night. I remember thinking he looked really on point to me, and I thought he was killing it. But then afterwards, we got all these terrible reviews about the show.
Are you serious?
And I was like, really? Like, I was just so.
My wife doesn't get, and I'm not going to say doesn't get you guys. She was just country and dance music, and she knows who you are because I had the discussion. But I'm watching on my big screen that performance and I was like, the guy is in a fucking zone of his own. Like I thought he was untouchable. And I mean, the band actually, dude, when you guys were playing Soup and the cellos going, and like I said, it's not hardcore music, but it was like you could see Shannon rocking back because it was just like you wanted to explode.
Yes.
Let it out.
Yes.
Right.
That is the feeling. That was the feeling. It felt like that.
And when you feel like that, and I mean, me as a fan, like I said, I'm not crazy fan, but when I sit and admire the music, I go, fucking raw fucking energy, power, right? And unless you really understand the dynamics of guitars, drums, bass, to get that vibrating sound of raw energy, you won't understand that. Even though it's not hardcore, the fucking energy level was through the roof with the band and that performance in general. I look at it as Live Aid for the Queen when it comes to your band. I mean, some people, like I said, I told you, some people give me shit for that. And say, what do you mean, Blind Melon, Live Aid? You're on fucking crack. But to me, the performance, it was spot on, and the energy level was there. Even you guys, like I said, when Danny Clinch came out and even didn't change, and you guys were, it was almost like music was bouncing off of you guys, and you were just playing catch. And
that's one of my favorite moments. And Danny's still one of my best friends. He comes out to Joshua Tree all the time. We're actually working on a Danny Clinch EP.
Oh, really? Awesome.
He has one of the greatest voices that no one knows because everyone thinks of him, one, as a photographer, greatest photographer of today, and then two, as a great harmonica player. He's an incredible. But what people don't realize is his voice is magic.
Really?
So we're 3 or 4 songs into this EP we're making. So he loves it out here.
Awesome. That'll be good to see. I'd like to obviously hear some of that. I mean, like I said, I was obviously you're playing with the harmonica, and change was, again, I'll get into that later because it's a touchy subject for me with you guys. But it's you close your eyes and you just listen. It's like being out in the desert. And you close your eyes, right? Yeah. It takes you to a different place. And like I said, when Danny jumped in and was doing it at the end there while you were playing, I'm like, man, this is one of the greatest performances of this song that I've heard, right? So that song, Change, started it for you guys, right? Let's go back in time. And so you came from Pennsylvania. The other guys were pretty much, I mean, Shannon was obviously Midwest.
Yep, Indiana.
Everybody else was down south in California, correct?
No. Down south is Mississippi. All the three
Mississippi,
other
yes, Mississippi. But you
met in LA.
Okay, so how did that transpire? Now I heard the story a few times. I mean, obviously when you met up and more or less Shannon played Change, and it was kind of like, fuck, let's do something.
Honestly, the night I met Shannon, he played me Change and Jane Says. And we were giant Jane's Addiction fans.
Damn! How does that not surprise me with Shannon, right? And that's another song I have in my car. Jane Says, a version, a version where they have, I think Duff McKagan's actually playing acoustic with Dave, and it's actually steel drums.
Yep, I know that version.
Dude, it's another mind-altering.
Yeah.
I have appreciation for the toned-down acoustic stuff now when I'm older, right?
Yeah, right.
But like you said, as soon as you said Jane Says, like why does that not surprise me with him, right? So
those are the 2 songs, and more than, I mean, the songs, and just knowing that he had written Change, and we were all like, I was not even 21 yet, and he was so much farther ahead as a songwriter to put that song together. You know what I mean? Like, so I was immediately blown away by him, and then regardless of the songs, just his character and who he was, like he just completely filled up the entire room. Like I read every biography I could as a kid. And then when I met Shannon, it was like he was the guy that I was reading about in all my books, all my favorite singers, all my favorite rock stars. And I was like, and I'd never met anyone with that sort of over-the-top charisma without trying in any way. He just filled the room when he showed up. You know what I mean? The party never started until Shannon was there. And so that's the other part of him that just blew my mind. That's how someone could just be such an amazing presence, you know?
Was he was that a byproduct of, now I guess he was one tough dude too, from what I understand, and
super tough.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess wrestling and taekwondo, which he reminds me. So I had 2 friends, and I mean, both of them passed away. And we'll get into that later. But same thing. The one guy was a singer, charismatic, like athletic. Which it's funny, right? Because we have the discussion all the time with music. This is why I do the show, and the show is a combination of pro athletes and musicians.
That's cool.
because back in the day it was, you were either a jock or you were, either in dramatic arts or a
Yeah.
music guy. But I think over the years it's kind of meshed now.
Sure.
And because a lot of pro athletes, like in baseball, they have walk-up songs, which when they go to home plate, their music is playing. So you're getting an extension of the athlete, right?
Sure.
And they also use you guys as pump-up music, right? So yeah, back to my friend. He was this athletic guy, life of the party. And again, uh, back then would have been a Blind Melon fan, but it was crazy, like a nut, like jumping off freaking roofs into pools, like. But you're close to snapping your leg on the pool deck.
Yeah.
And,
Oh yeah.
So it sounded like Shannon, like wild stuff, off the cuff,
Always.
right?
Always.
And
Yep.
but you know what? He's the guy that would have your back anytime shit went down.
Always.
And
Always.
and
Yeah. Cool.
y- and I think with both my friends, like I said, that I lost, you knew the time was coming eventually. But before we get into that, you had to like you said, admiration for them, because you're like, fuck, I wish I was. Why am I not like that? Or
Yeah.
what makes him like that?
Yeah.
Right?
Shannon felt fearless to me, and I was always a little scaredy cat. So like,
yes.
I could get close to the edge with Shannon. He would get to the edge and put 1 foot over it, and I would be 2 feet on this side of the edge, watching him put his foot over the edge.
Yeah, and he'd be like,
And
"Come on, let's go, let's go."
That's my time. But somebody like him, you have experiences you never would have had by yourself.
Yes.
When you're around somebody like that, they force you out of your box and out of your comfort level, and magical things happen from those moments. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So that relationship obviously started from after the song Change, and like you said, Jane's Addiction. Jane Says. When did that immediately connect? How soon was it until you guys started coming up with some other material before you ended up getting in the studio doing demos or landing a contract with Capitol?
You know what? We immediately wrote like 4-ish songs, I think. And then I think we got a record deal. Like we got a record deal.
Really, eh?
Like honestly, we got a record deal so fast. It was not even like, we never should have gotten a record deal. But we kind of lied and said, yeah, we got more songs. But I think on the strength of Change and maybe a couple other songs, Shannon's incredible charismatic personality, we got a deal really fast. But we weren't quite a band yet. So that's when we went and spent time in North Carolina. And then that's where we wrote more material and kind of became a better band, I would say, But it happened pretty fast for us at the beginning, I have to say.
I mean, it'll be funny. I think I was at a teen dance, and I could be ashamed of this because I guess your music evolves, but it might have been like a break dancing competition or some stupid thing, and I actually won cassette it was Blind Melon. It was a cassette. So
That's
your
funny.
first album, right? So I remember going home that night and popping it in, and it was like No Rain over and over and over and over again.
Oh, funny.
Are you annoyed with, like, Kurt and Smells Like Teen Spirit? Are you okay with it and proud of it, or annoyed? You know what I mean? Like it's a hard question to ask you. Like, I mean, of course
I know the question. I know the question you're asking. Am I annoyed that I had a giant hit that overshadowed the band that bought us all a bunch of houses and gave us a career and allowed us to make the Soup record? No, but am I annoyed that that's the song that people know us by the most? Yes. So it's both. I can't be annoyed at having an amazing hit, but I wish everybody knew more of the songs, I guess I should say.
But yeah, and I mean, the problem is like, they don't. Some people either didn't understand or don't get the rest of your writing and creativity, because it was, again, here we go, commercialization, No Rain on the airwaves. But dude, there's a lot of songs on your catalog that are quite impressive, and it does annoy the shit out of me. I don't play No Rain. I'm sorry, but
most of the fan base would say the same thing. I mean, most of the hardcore fans, they're not going home listening to No Rain. That's the song for sort of the other people who kind of know you. But the fans don't go home and listen to No Rain. So, but hey, without No Rain, we never would have gotten to make the Soup record.
That's right.
And the Soup record is my most proud moment on record, in that for that band, during that time period. So for me, I have to be grateful for the song. It's
But dude,
insulting.
you guys had the video was awesome.
It
I'll give
was.
it that, right? It was,
Yeah.
I had that vibe. It was even hippie-ish vibe,
Yeah.
especially the way Shannon was. But the B girl was awesome. Like that
Yep.
stuff is like, okay. I mean, at that time when you made the video, did you guys know how big it was going to be? Were you annoyed with the song? I guess you can't say you're annoyed at your own song, but like, did you know where it was going to lead at that point when you did the video?
Well, I had no idea that 30 years later, you and I would still be talking about the song. So I didn't have that. I didn't have an idea of how its staying power and how it became sort of a part of pop culture. This B girl is a part of pop culture. And no, I didn't have any of those ideas. But I have to say, the day that we got the video back, I remember seeing it and going, "Oh, whoa, that looks incredible."
Oh,
You know what I mean?
dude, even
Yeah.
take the song out, but the song makes the video too. But you
Yeah.
look at it and you go, yeah, this is a fucking simple,
Yeah.
but it's a put your feet up,
Yeah.
and that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
Like it's an enjoyable watch and listen, right? Like and
Yeah.
like you said, pop culture, like you nailed it. I mean, everybody knows, like whenever they see this in the fields with
Yeah.
the long hair and you guys going,
Yeah. Yeah.
right away it's like that band uplifts me, and I just wish more people would have dived in a little deeper to the first album, and then like you said, Soup,
Me too.
that album a little more. And it's funny, and I'll be honest, like I'm a fan, but I only knew No Rain back then. I became a fan when I moved to Belgium in
Wow.
in 1998. Okay.
Why
And
were you in Belgium? Why were you in Belgium? Can I ask
well,
that?
yeah, because I played semi like European professional hockey over in Amsterdam and Holland and Belgium. So
Wow.
what happened was I was in a music store looking for vinyl, and there's another thing that we're missing out on these days.
Yeah, I know.
Or it's coming back, but the kids. So I was looking for vinyl records, and I remember I actually put an order in for a vinyl copy of Nirvana from the Muddy Banks of the Wishkah. But I stumbled upon Nico,
Oh, wow.
right? And Nico actually opened me up to more. And then, you as technology advances and you hear or see your live, I'm a guy for live. I want to hear it live
Yeah,
because
yeah, cool.
if I hear it live, it tells me more about the artist.
Sure.
And it tells me how musically gifted they are,
Sure.
how much they don't have to rely on technology to make them sound good.
Absolutely.
And you guys are like one of those bands on an A list. Like I saw Pearl Jam, same thing.
Yeah.
You guys are on an A list for, yeah, I mean, just the guitar playing, everything. It's just spot on. It's not, you don't rely on people correcting your errors in the studio, right?
No, we didn't in the studio. Most of those records are tracked completely live without a
Yeah.
click track.
Yeah.
All those records were all done that way. All of us in a room. You go back and redo the vocal maybe, and maybe you clean up a guitar. But honestly, that's us in a room playing. That's how we sound.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why I had appreciation for you guys. But then I guess I'll get into the story now, the back half of it. So as I got into that, I explored you guys more, and then the real world set in. I retired. I had a broken back, so I gave up hockey, went back home, met up with my friends that we used to jam in high school and play. His dad was actually best friends with most of the guys in the band called The Band, Richard Danko and all those guys.
Yeah, wow.
Levon Helms, like they know.
Oh man, we're
Yeah,
giant fan. Yeah.
they know them all. Like my dad's or my friend's dad was actually in a band called Barefoot in Canada with Rick Danko's brother.
Wow.
So, I didn't know who they were when I was younger. I was Nirvana. I was,
Sure.
Pearl Jam, Soundgarden,
Yeah.
right? You guys, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
But then now I'm 41 and actually over the last decade, I got a more of appreciation for the band and music like that. So, I figured that stuff out. So when the real world hit me, I was 22, 23. I retired from hockey. I came home, worked the job. And this is how I really more so got into Blind Melon, because you guys probably saved my life.
Wow, man.
And the reason for that was in February, my lifelong friend overdosed and died.
Wow.
And I remember getting the phone call from my friend, and I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Like, I can't. You've been through it, so you hear the reports. And to be honest with you, I retired from hockey, but I was leaving in 1 week to go to Sweden to play for Team Canada for a world championship for a month. That was going to be my last thing. So
Wow.
a week before I left, I get this news that my friend was out partying. Somebody gave him, from the rumor I heard, was someone gave him a bottle of, what do you call it? It's the stuff that methadone clinics,
Oh God.
right? So he back then, this is 2003. So we really didn't know about that stuff. He just chugged the whole thing. Apparently went to the apartment. He had been drinking all night, laid down on the couch and never woke up again.
That's it.
And so getting that news, you got to go to work, your childhood friend for years, we rocked out to Chili Peppers, Blind Melon, all that crap, right?
Right.
You're angry.
Yeah.
You're wondering why.
Yeah.
You're wondering why you're not fucking dead instead of him.
Yeah.
Why
yeah.
couldn't it be me?
Yeah.
So I remember I had my Jeep at the time because it was wintertime, February in Canada, and I didn't have the Mustang. So I just reached down through CDs, grabbed yours, was the first one, and I was rifling through songs. So the two songs that struck me with you guys were Change, of course, because some of the lyrics in it. And the I don't want to die, and you're young and you're just lost your friend. And then the other one was Soup, because Soup really resonated with that. He's no longer needed here, no longer, the rocking chair he used to live there. All the words. When you're emotionally distraught, words really come at you. And then the third song was actually Strawberry by Everclear, because it talks about drug addictions and everything. And but I think the CD at the time, because that's what we had, burnt out because I played it over and over and over, and it was just streaming tears. So I had to go an hour before work, sitting in my car, listening to it, drink a coffee, and then shut it off and go into work, and then repeat the same thing the next day, the next day, probably for a month. Because as you know, grieving comes in many forms in many steps, right?
Sure does.
Denial is the first one, and
it.
And then you have blame. I mean, you're blaming yourself for something at the time you think you probably could have had control over and changed. And,
Sure. And then you get angry. That's another step.
Oh yeah, the anger, like I said. So I had a lot of tears. But remember earlier in the conversation I said about when you helped an artist and it closed the chapter. So me talking to you right now and then saying thank you is another chapter gone in my life of healing.
That's cool, man.
That's what I'm saying, right? Like, because
I understand that.
I didn't go to his funeral because I don't handle funerals well.
Sure.
So I went and spoke to his parents and said, because we were friends, and I said, I just can't do this, and I'm leaving on a plane in 3 days to go to Sweden. I don't know how I'm going to do this. And I remember going to Sweden and putting the, man found dead in apartment, blah, 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 the newspaper clipping in my stall. But like I said, that whole thing of, I invited his parents to my wedding. He was my honorary best man, even though he wasn't there.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I put a video of the images of him, and I actually had the song Change playing on it, and I also had the song No Need to Argue by the Cranberries, because it's that whole, I argued with him being up there, me being up. Why the fuck did you do this to me? Right? Do this to people that love you. So for saying thank you, because, and I guess Shannon still is to thank as well, because it's Shannon's voice and emotion, and it's your playing and it's your band that helped me get through that. So for me, it's another chapter. Once I walk away from today and say goodbye, I mean, hopefully, a lot of the artists I've been interviewing have said always stay in touch, especially in Canada. But it's a chapter where, I'll probably take a big sigh, and I might actually have some tears to my wife saying that it was therapy.
Yeah,
right?
That's cool, man. I'm happy to be a part of that.
Yeah. So, and that's why I asked you that earlier, and you did say, that is some closure, or that is some pick me up and make me feel good to help an artist, right?
Yeah.
So that's how, like I said, so I'm not your traditional Blind Melon fan where, yes, as a younger kid, I heard the No Rain. That was what I knew you for. But then, like I said, I picked up Nico, and it was funny how Nico transversed into replaying of Soup and Change.
Yeah.
And Change is what started you guys, and Change is what got me through that rough patch.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, what's, from that first album to the second album, what was going on, or what, you guys recorded Soup. It was down, I want to say, was it New Orleans? Was it New
Yeah,
Orleans?
New Orleans. Yep, New Orleans. Yep.
So what was how were things then? I mean, were you guys having your troubles then?
Well, we were, but we didn't know about it. Sorry, what's the rest of the question? Sorry.
Like, was there personalities, not issues, but I mean struggles? And were you really having, was it success that was doing it?
Well, I would say a part of us were working on all pistons firing. Like I felt like musically we were really on fire. But things got tougher between us because the drug abuse got kicked up a notch, because at that point we had money in our pockets. So instead of, smoking weed and having a couple beers, the drugs changed, and that changed quite a bit. But even with that, I felt like we were making great music. I really felt in the moment, because we had just toured for nonstop for a couple years. So when we go to start writing for the Soup record and start making that Soup record, I felt on fire. Even with the drug abuse around, I still felt like we were on fire. We were fast at kind of working stuff up and getting great takes and all that. So yeah, I mean, a lot changed, like.
Well, a lot did change. Like that album, do I want to use the word darker?
It is darker. It's absolutely darker. Yeah. Yeah, it's absolutely darker. It's like everything changed. We were shot out of a cannon. You know what I mean? And like all of our dreams came true, like in a very short period of time. And like we lived 25 years in a couple years. And it's like people are like, oh, were you different? It's like, fuck yeah, we were different. Man, our life got flipped upside down. It was great because we, finally had, made it, whatever that word means.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and so everything was different, but I was also I didn't want it to go away. So I was like obsessed with all things music and just making sure it never left, because we finally got there and I just didn't want it to go away. So I felt like we were all working hard, and we wrote a lot of great songs for that Soup record.
But you guys, once you got to success, and I guess things have changed now musically, like are you guys taking care of yourself now, meaning marketing, self-financed? Are you basically managing yourself? Like I know a lot of bands are going that direction.
You mean as opposed to a record company?
Yeah. Like, are you guys?
Well, right now, the last couple things we released are independently. Just with us and our manager, we kind of design what we want to do. We don't go through Capitol for the newer releases, but there's some future stuff happening that might get released, not necessarily in Capitol, but on maybe some other label or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because like I said, even with your tours and everything, I heard some stories like you guys, like I couldn't believe that you guys got ripped off for Cash the one. I couldn't believe that. I'm like, what? I'm like, what?
Yeah, we were set up. We were set up. Yeah, we were set up in Colorado, where our tour manager got a phone call from the front desk from the hotel saying, "Hey, there's a FedEx package." He goes to get the FedEx package. There's no FedEx package. By the time he gets back to his room, somebody stole tens of thousands of dollars from him. Yeah.
Yeah, like stuff like that. Like you sit there and go, like all the stuff you guys are going through, and then you get stuff like that. I mean, back then, I can imagine that money was huge. I mean, and I don't mean like I think I heard 30 to 50,000. Well, that's a lot of money back in that time frame, right? I mean, for a group of guys.
We were so not conscious of money back then, because it just didn't. We weren't doing it for money, so like it didn't feel like.
I get it.
It wasn't like, oh my god, we're gonna be broke tomorrow. It was like, oh man, we got ripped off. Oh well, okay, let's go play a show. You know what I mean? It didn't really. I'm sure the management was like, oh, this is terrible, but for us, we were like, yeah, whatever, dude.
But it also shows that, I mean, being through the grinder of it, are you more cautious now? Like, meaning, I mean, you have a family.
Yeah.
But people want to take advantage of you, right?
Yeah, you gotta be careful. Yeah.
And I mean, that's your fine line of knowing who you're doing business with, right? And who you're associating with, right? That can be a huge thing. So that time period of Soup, I mean, again, I love the album. Were you guys baffled by the reviews of it, or
Oh man, I thought we just made like
like
Exile on Main Street.
Rolling Stones took a shit right on you guys?
Oh man, it was the worst thing. I got to tell you, it devastated. What people don't understand now, because now there's not one gatekeeper. Back to the gatekeeper, but back then there was one. There's two gatekeepers: Rolling Stone or Spin. If you get a shitty, and Rolling Stone really is at the top of that list.
Yeah.
If they decide to shit on you, no one cares about your record. So it was devastating to us because we thought we were so proud that one, we didn't repeat No Rain. Two, that we were progressing forward, and it's a different band almost, not totally, but you can see a progression.
Yep.
And it's a darker record, and we were so proud of it. We felt like it was back to that purity.
Yep.
Felt really pure. The record
Yep.
company never even came to visit us. We didn't let them visit us when we were making the record down there. So it was as pure as it could be. So we were super proud of it. And Rolling Stone put us on the cover a year before.
I was just gonna say, how
So,
do you go from being naked darlings on the cover of Rolling
Oh my
Stone
God.
to being shit on?
Yeah, dude. And it honestly, I have to say, it really fucked up the band for a little bit. It was like, and Shannon took it fucking hard, man.
Oh, dude.
They attacked him and attacked his lyrics, even though they were getting them wrong. Like he got attacked, and it really hurt us. But I have to say, like, right before he passed away, we kind of bonded together more, and we're like, okay, whatever. Let's just go out and tour this record. People will catch on to it, and let's just go make another record. We did, it hurt us, but we thought, okay, it's not going to stop us. And then Shannon passed away a month later. So,
well, and then I feel like there was stuff coming down the pipe, and I mean, obviously stuff got released, but it's hard when you lose. Shannon's not a normal run of the mill guy. Like, I mean, that sound that
not in any way.
Okay, so the way I always look at it, and I'm intrigued by artists or groups, is distinctive sound.
Yeah.
Eddie Vedder has a distinctive sound.
Totally.
Billy Joe, when you talk Green Day, has that distinctive sound.
Sure.
Like the vocals, right? So, bang, you have a distinctive sound with your front man.
Yeah.
And then the band kind of accompanies with the music that just it fits, right? It's very hard when someone comes in and snatches a part of that. Well, I heard you quote it one time. Someone basically, you lose your fucking CEO, right? More or less, right?
That's the truth.
Yeah, he's gone.
Your best friend and your job and your CEO all die in one day. You know what I mean?
Stuff was coming down the pipe, and I mean, because on Nico, like for example, Letters from a Porcupine, is that the only recording of it?
Yeah.
Was that so there's a prime example of I'm not saying that would have been, but it just shows the creativity thinking at that point or somewhere along the line. And especially when you hear about other bands, like I remember Brian Vander Ark said the Verb Pipe with the Freshman was 7 years that from the time so you can imagine some artists have working things through the years that you would have ended up with some really good stuff. But with your new guy there, right? I'll call him the new guy that steps in. When I heard him, Close the Eye. I mean, I'm not saying it's him, and this isn't a cover band, right?
Yeah.
Like this isn't. But to sing the old songs, it's rasp, it's raw. It's like if someone doesn't understand when you talk vocals, it's like you said, Janis Joplin, that whole rawness to it, right? He's got that. And then your new releases, I was like, yeah, this isn't Shannon. This isn't, I'm trying to be Shannon, but yet it still is Blind Melon, and it's still heading in the right direction. Which you've got to appreciate that. Like that's, to me, I would think you'd have to be thankful that you guys kind of stumbled upon him, because I think he's
beyond thankful. And it goes back to the emotional thing. The reason why Travis does such a great job connecting with the older songs is emotionally he had a similar upbringing, and he could connect to those songs, and he can deliver them with the same essence that Shannon delivers them.
Yes.
But yet Travis is also his own completely stunning, amazing, incredible songwriter, has all the same qualities of Shannon,
Dude, he
in his own way.
He released a few, or just put a few things on Facebook or whatever it was there, and I'm like, fuck, like this is fucking good, right? Don't fucking spoil it. I'm thinking like you need to package it, and you need to save some of that stuff, right? But,
Well, I'm working on his solo record. I'm actually mixing his solo record this week, Travis's solo record.
Yep.
So it's amazing. He's a true talent.
He's his own guy, right? And that's what you want, because you want fans, you want new fans,
Yeah.
and you want the old fans. It's almost like the new stepdad that comes in, or when you're you know what I mean? Like you're almost like, oh fuck, who's this? Like, oh fuck,
Yeah.
like that's what. But I don't get that with him, and I don't get it that you're trying to sell. Hey, Shannon's not here, but hey, we're Blind Melon. No, you're Blind Melon. And to be honest, when I look at it, thank you, Shannon, because Travis never would have been Travis if Shannon was never in Blind Melon, because I know that Travis was a fan and understood it. So this would never happen in the end if Shannon was never there. And thank you, Shannon, for it.
Yeah.
Right? Like meaning as a whole, like meaning if you can take positivity out of it for you guys to continue on, because I sense now that you guys are with some of the interviews I see too, like you guys are doing well. Like you're getting along.
I would say better than many years. I feel like we're getting along better, and we feel really aligned, as Roger said. That's the best word for it. We feel aligned. There was many years where we weren't all aligned, but now between all of us, like we're really getting great stuff done. We really enjoy each other's company. Like I miss the guys so much. They're my brothers.
When you miss them, you know you have a brotherhood or a bond.
It's the truth, man. I do.
This many years later, like after the whole thing, you guys, I mean, I still do it. So you have to. Even when I lost my friends, you got to be like, fuck, that was exhausting.
Yeah.
Or it's still like, I mean, you're in a better place, but you can still turn your head and look back 20, 25 years and go, what the fuck? But you smile, now, because again, like I said, you kind of come to peace with it. And you know what, maybe we grow from that, right? We grow from that and we learn from that. And I think, even with yourself, like I saw, you said it today, but I saw a post. This is the clearest your head's ever been, especially being out in Joshua Tree with creativity. And that's being mindfulness, and that's being at peace, right? So,
fully.
So what's, do you have any regrets at all, Christopher, about anything?
Well, how could I not? How could I not?
Take the Shannon. I mean,
the night he passed away, talking about the blame, back to the stages you go through to bring it all right back to that, it's denial and then blame and then anger. That was the three. That was how, for me, in that order, so sure. Did I beat myself up and still do, the night Shannon died, I just was like, oh, fuck it, man, you're going to do drugs tonight. And he asked me if I wanted to hang out and party with him. And I was like, I just was mad because he had been sober and I was so proud of him. And I thought we were in a better place. And as soon as he started doing drugs again, I just went to sleep. I tried to shut it out. So I regret not staying up that night and punching him in the face and throwing his Coke out. That's
the anger, right? I mean, that's, that's like, I mean, and I you know what? Stress is probably a lot to blame for it. I mean, his death too, and your reaction was like, fucking shut my eyes and go to sleep and see you in the morning, right? And I remember reading or hearing about you guys with your response was that he looked good, that
he did,
and it's almost one of those things where, stress can cause it with the mixture of drugs, right? So, and that's the sad part. I mean, the drugs obviously were the key player, but look at now. I mean, we still have beautiful things to thank, even from yourself, from him, with All I Can Say, the movie that came out. I mean, so many years later, I think you're gaining fans too with that release. People are
I think so.
Appreciating the band. What are you proud that a camera might have been carried around that whole time to capture some of those moments in life? Like, I mean, that's what it is, man.
Yeah, I'm beyond grateful that Shannon shot that stuff. In the moment, I fucking hated it.
You were like, you fucking, I knew you were going to give that response, because it's that annoying friend. It's like, get the fucking camera on.
Yeah, get the camera on my face, man. I'm fucking trying to do something. Like every little thing we did, it's like, and then he would secretly film you. So you always were a little paranoid. You didn't know if, you're in a room with a camera. But as I sat and watched, I worked on the movie as well. I did some of the film
Yep.
score for
Yep.
it, and Rogers and I did the trailer that we just did like a week ago. Rogers and I did a trailer that they started using, or a couple weeks ago. But I am beyond grateful that my life is so covered that period of time for two people. One, Danny Clinch, became an immediate sixth member of the band. He played with on the Jon Stewart show, Woodstock. He opened up, he played with the Stones with us. So he is
was he traveling, like he captured a lot of I want to say pure and important moments.
That's what he does.
Like
he captures those,
like
the backstage moments. Yeah.
Yeah. And he got, Shannon, I think it was in the back of a cab or in the car.
Yep.
In that one photo.
Yep.
Like they're time capsules.
Yeah. He was on the bus with us. When we went to Europe, Danny said, "Hey man, if there's an extra bunk, I'd love to come hang out with you guys. I won't charge you. I just want to," we were like, hell yeah. By then he was like our great friends. We were like, yeah, oh yeah. And so I'm super grateful for all the amazing shots that Danny covered in our career. And then Shannon, it was all there on the videotape. And Danny, Taryn, and Colleen and Shannon made an incredible piece of art. I could not be more proud of the All I Can Say film. I could not be more proud and more grateful to Danny, Taryn, and Colleen for not giving up. Because I got to tell you, I didn't know if the movie was going to come out because it's so much harder to make a movie than I ever imagined. I can tell you that.
But dude, have you seen the reception on it?
It's been incredible. I could not be happier and more proud.
Yeah, it's one of those moments where, you had the personal relationship with them. So it's
that feels like a chapter closing for me. Back to that.
That's what I'm saying, because my word for you, good. Yeah. I don't know if you did, but it's almost like if that was me and my friend. Like I said, I had the one especially that was close to that passed away. But after that movie, when you watch its entirety, you almost want to say like, "I love you, man." Thank you,
man. Yeah,
right? Like
I'm so grateful.
Oh yeah, and I'm glad you are, because again, it's part of the healing process, and obviously even with COVID, with all the stuff that's going on, either it's going to be tough on artists, or either we are going to have one hell of a creative spur.
That's what I think.
Oh, dude, and the combination of All I Can Say and COVID, because even with yourself watching the finished product, it probably had to inspire you too.
Absolutely.
Right? Because you're seeing time capsules of yourself. And you smiled a lot. I'm hoping you smiled and laughed a lot.
Yeah.
Right? There had to be.
Yeah. You mean watching the movie?
Yeah.
Both. Both. There are times where my heart's ripped out. When I was working on the film, I was working on these scenes for, a couple hours at a time. And certain days I would just be like, oh, this is super fun. And certain days I was like, this is the hardest fucking thing to be hanging out with Shannon right now. And then certain days I was like, oh, I get to hang out with Shannon working on this film. Yeah. So I just never knew how I was going to feel. But ultimately, you get to hang out. I tell people you get to hang out with Shannon for an hour and a half, and he's going to make you laugh, and he's going to break your heart. And that's who he was. Yeah. It's that simple. The movie does all of that.
Watching that whole thing for you, what was the brightest moment of that whole flick for you? And what is the hardest one for you?
The hardest one, I'll start with the last. The hardest one that I struggled with and still struggle with is when I see him, the last moments of his film, I get angry all over again because I go, he's not fucked up. What happened? He's sober. He's drinking water. He's getting ready to go to sleep. He's talking to his girlfriend. He's talking about the baby. If I saw him doing lines, you go, okay, this is a guy that's going to die, in an hour. But when I see him, it makes me go like, what fucking happened? I get frustrated. Like, what happened? He looks fine.
Yeah.
How could he go from like, okay, hey babe, get me off the bus. Blah, 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 okay, I'll talk to you later. And then an hour later, he's dead. Like that part rips my heart out because I just don't have the answer for it. And that's what drives me nuts.
Well, and it's like the similar experiences we had. It's obviously on a different level with you. But hearing that last bit when you said, he didn't look fucked up and you're hearing it, it's probably haunting for you still, right? It has to be, because it doesn't matter. Anybody who's been through that situation when they've been one of the last contacts or in contact with somebody who has either had a situation like that,
sure.
It's eerie for you because it's again, you go through the stages. You try to.
You really do. Yeah, right? All the stages show up again,
They do.
In a weird way, it would have been easier if he was like completely slurring his words.
I get it.
You know what I mean? Like, okay, that makes sense, dude. You did that to yourself. Fuck you. You know what I mean? I can be angry at you, but I can't be angry at him.
When
That's
he
what it
didn't
was.
show.
It's almost like it takes away, like, oh, now I can't be angry because you look fine. Like, you look like you were totally fine, you know?
Yeah. So
So
what was the brightest? I want to get you on good notes, right? I
yeah,
mean,
there's lots of great bright moments, but I have to say, you know, the moment when I left Pennsylvania to go to Los Angeles to be in a band, like my goals were just real, like tiny little goals, simple goals that I tried to get. And then all of them showed up at one time. But the very first one, I wanted a record deal. People told me when you leave Pennsylvania, it's never going to happen for you. You're not going to get a record deal. You're going out to Hollywood to be a star, you know, all that bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm like, I just wanted a record deal. I wanted to be validated. I wanted a record company to say to my parents, all the stuff you did for your son and all the hard work he put in, we believe in him, so we're going to give him a record deal. That alone was the goal. So the moment where we're on top of Capitol Records, signing our deal, for me, it's like that was the first of my goals. I got to go, whoa, I did that. Okay, now what's the next goal? Now I want a gold record. You know what I mean? And then they kept coming. But so that moment is one of the most special moments for me. And then there's one other moment that my mother took. There's only like a couple clips that are not Shannon's. One of them is we're all sitting down cross-legged playing Change. Yep. That's the very first version of Change that ever exists. My mother shot it because we were hanging out at my aunt's house. We had a pool party. And then my mom's like, play for us. You know, so we all sat down and played Change for my mom and she filmed it. So that's also like.
Is that the one where in that video with the red toque and you see you guys are sitting around a table there? Or
No, we're on the ground.
You're on the ground cross-legged.
Like,
okay.
Yeah. And my hair's like down to here and I'm playing the harmonica. But that's like the innocence of the band. Like we were just so innocent. And just when I see those moments, not knowing what was about to happen to us in the next 2 years, you know, but those are great moments. Those are like really wonderful moments for me to see in the film.
Yeah. And I mean, for you, it's probably, you know, looking back, some of it's got to be closure again. And then some of it's got to be, oh, fuck, here we go again. Right. And of course, but the positive part for more closure is that the reviews. And I mean, I saw comments, dude, from people that weren't maybe Blind Melon fans that were like, oh, I seen this or somebody showed me this. And yeah, it was amazing. And I got this album and listened to this album. And I'm like, yeah, that's what it's about is, you know, we only have so many of them, man. And I mean, we've lost so many of them. Shannon, Kurt Cobain, Amy Winehouse. I mean, the list goes on. And is there, you know, when you think about it, substance abuse, mental illness is a big, you know, it's a combination of two, right? But even let's get out of the rock world and talk about the normal people, like opioid crisis going around and mental illness, right? So, you know, being that you are still involved in the music industry and a lot of people that normal fans would think, wow, you guys are human. And, you know, are artists not communicating, but are they opening up a little more with each other? You know, like if there's I'm not saying necessarily addiction problem, but, you know, struggling, like, hey man, like if you need me, call me. Is there more of that?
I think more than ever. People know more now about it and are able to talk about it. And maybe there's more tools around and more people to call and other places for help. MAP is an amazing resource that, you know, these days that can help musicians and things like that. So I didn't feel like we had the tools back then. I didn't know much about any of this that we're talking about. So I think, over the past 20 years, we've come a long way. Not shaming people is that's the number one thing. If I break my leg, you're like, oh, dude, what happened, man? Like, you're not shaming me. I'm like, oh, I tripped over a blah, blah, blah. But if I'm like, hey, man, I got strung out on pills, suddenly I'm like a bad guy. And I'm like, you know what I mean? But so we have to put both those things in the same category. Whether you break a leg or become addicted to something, you need help, period.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think people are looking at it more like that. Mental illness, same thing. Same thing as breaking my arm, man. I got a problem. My brain's broken. Just help me out. You know
dude, I mean? I struggled for years. And I think from playing hockey, I'm a lot of concussions. So they talk about CTE, which is basically degenerative brain disease, and you get moody, you get hostile, you get like there's changes. And my wife, I've been with her 16, 17 years, and there was a time period where things got really dark there.
Wow.
And I mean, physical aggression, not that and like I said, she's like, you're not the same guy. That, like, what is going on? And and she goes, I know that you had the concussions, and I know, but you need to talk to somebody. Like, you need I bet you, I grew up in an era with sports where it was, you got knocked out, you got up, went to the bench. If you saw stars, you took a Tylenol and you played through it. You didn't bitch, you didn't complain, you didn't whine, because the next guy's ready to take your job.
No doubt.
So the mentality was, you didn't cry, you didn't show weakness.
Sure.
I'm 41, so I'm going to say around 37, 38, I had a breakdown.
Wow.
And I finally walked into the mental health. And I'm going to tell you, Christopher, like, here's a guy that, whether I dropped the gloves, and because fighting was a part of hockey.
Sure.
Dude, I bawled to a chick I didn't even know. She's like,
right.
so what would you like to talk about? And it was everything from losing my friends, like I told you about, to an overdose. Of a young age, I was 18 years old when I moved to Europe to get paid to play hockey.
Amazing.
The pressure of well, it's the same as you. The pressure of what people put on you to be an athlete and succeed, and it's like you guys. They expect you to come out and you're going to sell stadiums out and you're going to give an A1 performance. Well, to a person I never met, and you know what? When I came out of there, I was drained.
Yeah.
Crying, just from crying.
Sure. Yeah.
But you have to admit it, right? Like you got
to get it out of you, man. You got to tell somebody about it. It's true. It's really
that's why where you are there, when I see it, I go, I don't have that, but I'm like, damn, could I just go for a walk in a place like that? Because my head would not be distracted.
Yeah.
The galaxy that's parked out there, it's like, it's great. It came from Shannon, but it's almost like admiring a piece of art, which is what those cars were back then when they built them.
No doubt.
Sitting in a beautiful scenery.
Yep.
I could, my wife says, like, how can you just sit around, or how can you just, and I said, because I'm at peace.
Yeah.
And I don't think I was at peace for 38 years of my life. Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, here's another topic, like where you're going as part of your closure is being at peace. And look at you now. You're producing stuff, or you're creating albums. You're listening to other people's work. I have really big respect for you being on Facebook Live, chatting or acknowledging, because I guess they would be fans, right?
Yeah.
And you're actually acknowledging them.
Yeah.
And
they become a family to me. It's funny. I'll just stop you there for 1 second. Something changed at some point years ago where the fan base, most of them I absolutely know on a first name basis. Like, so many of them I do. So many of them that people would say, oh, that's a crazy fan. I'm like, oh, that's my friend. Actually, that dude's got my number. Like, they've become family to me. And I really mean that, just because it's like, it's been going on for so long now. These are people that I've seen, and now I see their kids coming to the shows.
Awesome.
So it's become a really beautiful, like, family, whatever that means,
No, it's not.
And it does feel that way with our fan base / family, I'd call them.
Yeah, for sure. The biggest thing is you guys need to, once this is all over, come up to Canada.
We really do.
Dude, I mean, it's, you know what? I didn't see my first, I'll be blunt with you. My first concert was 1988 or 89. So I would have been 10 years old.
Yeah. It
was New Kids on the Block.
Wow, man.
On my mom's shoulder at CNE in Toronto. Okay.
Hey, mine was Sonny and Cher, just so you know. So don't no harm, no foul. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you the honest to God truth. I blew it. Okay. I won free tickets to see the Meat Puppets open up for Nirvana in 1993 in Toronto.
Wow.
I blew it off because I thought, just like everybody else, they're going to be around forever. The Rolling Stones, whatever. I'll see them in a year or two.
Yeah.
NTV Unplugged happened a month later. Kurt was gone. See you later. So I missed that one. But my actual second and third concert was the same artist twice. It was Pearl Jam.
Oh, nice.
And Pearl Jam didn't close the show with Yellow Ledbetter. they closed it with "Keep on Rocking in the Free World," which is a homage to Neil Young, who's Canadian.
Sure. Yeah.
So
sure.
I got pissed off, and I said that was my bucket list thing. So I went back and saw him and got Yellow Ledbetter. So I was
Nice.
I was 35 then. So that's how long I waited for concert. But now, like I said, because I've been getting the closure stuff with me,
Yeah.
been planning to make the trips to artists that are coming up in the area, or even Michigan, because I'm only 2 hours from Michigan and an hour
Sure.
from Buffalo.
Sure.
But yeah, that's part of the closure. Now, the funny part about it, your song "Soup," to me, I put the guitar playing of that up to Ledbetter from Pearl Jam. I don't
Yeah.
know if you see the similar. I mean, they've
Yeah.
got a bit of a Hendrix style
Sure.
feel to
Yeah.
it, but just when the odd part was I listened to that song over and over and over and over again, but then I heard you play it acoustically on Facebook,
Yeah.
and I was mind bent because because you're used to studio or you're used to live with the other
Yeah.
guitars accompanying it.
Yeah.
And then
Sure.
I listened to it and I'm like, that sounds fucked up. Like, so then I had to listen to it, and then when I went back and
Yeah.
with studio or a Woodstock or live versions, I'm listening,
Yeah.
and I
Same
can
part.
hear it,
Yeah.
right?
It's,
And I'm like,
you
but
know, it's Rogers weaving in.
Yes.
When you eliminate, it's the sound of Blind Melon. If you eliminate Rogers
yes,
from my song, or if you eliminate me from Rogers' song, it suddenly sounds like, hold it, something's really missing here, because it takes both parts and then they make.
yes, because you have. I'm not the musical guy, like I said, my friend's dad was when it comes to the playing. Like I'm power chords, 4 chords, 3 chord grunge. That's it.
What do you need?
but it's almost like you have a walking scale in there, and then back, and then when you hear, and I believe it would be Roger's part, is that do 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 do, right?
Yeah.
So, like you said, when it's overlaid and together,
It makes a whole.
ta-da, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you hear it. So for me, like I said, when I heard that, I was like, kind of your part on its own, I was mind fucked a little bit. I kind of went, what the fuck? Because you're hearing it for the first time, and so it sounds new to me, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, when I heard it, I'm like, I'm going along with it. And then I showed my wife, and I'm like, yeah, this is this song, and I played the Woodstock version with you guys, and she goes, it doesn't sound like it. I'm like, because you really have to listen and dissect it. And then, but yeah, I have really a lot of appreciation for your guitar playing, your musical ability with mandolins, everything, because you're, like I said, you're a unique band. You came out in a grunge, post-grunge, alternative rock era. And I guess you're like a little bit of flavor.
Yeah, we had some more hippie in us for sure.
Yeah, blues, hippie,
Yeah,
jazz. You know, like John Sinclair, the song there with the
Yeah, I love that song.
Like and people.
Great version, yeah.
Yeah, I talk to other people. They, you know, when they know no rain, right? They don't.
Yeah.
And it's really disheartening for me. Anyway, so it is. It's been like an hour and 20 minutes, man.
Hold on, we got to talk about one thing that we haven't talked about, which is crazy. I didn't tell you this because I've been meaning to say it. My passion before music was ice hockey.
Well, you jackass! Why didn't you say something in the beginning?
I should have led with that. My absolute. I was on a team called the Green Devils in York, Pennsylvania, before I got super into guitar, which is like, you know, at an early age I knew about the guitar, but then it kind of fell out and I got obsessed, 13, 14. But somewhere around, 9, 10, 11, 12, up until 14, I'm obsessed with ice hockey.
Really?
I'm at home. I broke so many windows in our garage. We had a garage door that had windows all along the top.
Yep.
I would practice my slap shots like at home on the driveway and just hit the garage door. Bam, bam. But if I got one in the air, I'd knock it. My parents were so cool. My dad was like, okay, well, that's going to cost you $6, whatever.
That's like our house. When my parents sold their place, they had to replace the garage door.
Really?
It was all black puck marks on it.
Yeah, man, mine too.
Be hitting the crossbar and going up. And then I think so we had 2 lights up there, like cube lights. And I think I shattered one of them.
Of course.
Right. And so when they sold the house, they did that. They had to replace everything. It was a pretty marked up, and they had it wasn't vinyl siding; it was aluminum siding, but it was painted to look like vinyl. And of course, aluminum it dents, so
all day long.
It was dented like from.
Oh my god, we have the same story, man. I knew it.
what? So did you have an NHL team then? Obviously, were you Philadelphia Flyers or?
Yeah, but you know what? It was Philadelphia Flyers. What would have been like our closest team, and I didn't like follow. I was into it just myself. I didn't really follow. My parents didn't really watch sports at
Yeah,
home,
yeah,
so like I knew about the Philadelphia Flyers, but I know the greats, of course, all the normal greats, but
yeah.
I didn't follow it as much as I was obsessed playing it, and it was my whole culture, like the hockey culture.
Hockey.
Like, all my best friends came from ice hockey, and like my whole world revolved around like going to the skating rink, on the weekends, like the places that I was having practice. But like that's where I met my first girlfriends. That's where like everything happened. Everything revolved around ice hockey for me up until the guitar happened. My whole life was ice
And
hockey.
then it changed. Yeah. And I mean, you know what? We wouldn't be having this conversation if you didn't pick up the guitar, right?
Yeah, right.
The dude, it kind of sucks because it's been like an hour and 25 minutes. And like, I wanted to talk about your hat collection. Like, because I love your style because again, you've
I've
got
always
that,
had hats for some reason. I just
dude,
always love. I
but
still
it's-
got some hair, but I still love a hat, man.
but it's your style. Like it's a staple, right? Like, I mean, it's,
Yeah.
you are, I can go back to the band. Because when you saw those guys, that's what it
Sure.
was, like that whole
Yep.
Americana, and
Yep.
they had those hats. It was like it's a part of their staple, man. It's
It goes back to the blues guys too. Those guys
yes,
always.
yes.
You never saw those guys in sweatpants. They were never lazy. They fucking dressed up, and if it just meant a hat and some great glasses, that's cool. But you got to at least look like you mean it. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
for me, I just like to live in a certain movie, and my movie has people wearing hats. So that's my movie.
Can I ask you a question? Because you said dress up. Like, I'm still trying to figure this Woodstock '94 thing out. What was that Shannon was wearing? Because it's
It was
even
a
to this
dress,
day.
but it was a dress, but it was completely random and not even talked about. And honestly, he showed up that way before we went on, and I was like, okay, you're right.
I mean, it was cool. Like, it was like, even to this, that was me in high school. Even though I was a jock, when I went in and played,
yeah.
when I played for dramatic arts, I would, I wrote one of our production. It was actually 94 or 5. I wrote it. It was a play based around
That's cool.
suicide and Nirvana
Wow.
themed and stuff. But I dressed up in lingerie with a tiara like Kurt did with an acoustic guitar. And, everyone knew me as this jock, right? And I sang and played. But when I saw that, I was like, again, that was him, right? But when you're next to him, so all I'm getting is whatever was recorded, and it was almost like it looked like a ripped shirt and a dress, like it was. So what? It was a dress. That's what it was.
It was his girlfriend's dress that he just decided to wear at the last minute. It wasn't something he had planned out. But I tell you what Shane was great about. He just had an instinct for knowing how to have people talk about him. You know what I mean? He knew there was giant eyes.
That's the life of the party thing again.
You know what I mean? And he knew how to stand out. He knew how to stand out. And we sat there and, all these bands are there. All your heroes are there. How do you stand out in this group of legends?
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like Green Day had a moment because they did the whole mud thing. So they had a moment that everyone talked about, so Shannon knew how to have a moment. He knew how to like play with the press in that way. And that's just how his mind thought. You know what I mean?
But how awesome was that? Brett's, right? He had them, and he had eyeliner and a dress.
Yeah.
But probably could kick the shit out of 90% of the people that were there.
Oh, dude, he could kick the shit out of anybody, dude. He was a gangster when it came to fighting.
Dude.
I mean, I felt like I traveled with security at all times because I could mouth off to a guy twice my size as long as Shannon was right beside me. Yeah. I knew he could do a roundhouse, knock the guy out. Like,
could you imagine in that concert getting there or walking there and someone's like, "Nice fucking dress, dude."
Yeah.
Like, no, dude. Don't say that to him.
You won't want to say that to him.
Because was there any of that? Did that ever happen?
Shannon getting into fights?
Yeah, or even, during show, pre-show, after show.
Oh, dude, all the time. He would really? punch a cop in the face, or a security guy that was mishandling a fan who tried to jump on stage. He'd punch. Honestly, we had nothing. We had lawsuits, and he was always, had some lawyer getting him out of one thing and then out of another thing, and he wouldn't.
Lust for life, man. Lust for life,
full on, and he never hit us. Never was physical with us, but he was physical with everybody else.
Wasn't there one story when you guys were living together or apartment that was it Roger that it was close to, and then he stopped, like he didn't hit him, but he was close to, and then he was just like, whoa. But then after that, Shannon's like, just fucking kidding. But the sense was,
I don't know that story, but he never, the only time that it got crazy for me is he came over one night and he wanted to, I was really mad at him because he had some drinks and he was driving, and that's just something
yeah. I don't drink anymore because of that. Really, I don't personally. My wife does, and I'd rather have her drink and have a good time. If I'm on holidays, like I'm at a resort and I'm not driving, I will do it. But see, the problem is it's automatic suspension of license. You can kill somebody. So for me, if I drink a beer now, I'm talking to you, and then go to the grocery, because you never know, right? Like you drink a beer, and then 3 hours later, someone's like, "Oh," or not 3 hours, but 30 minutes. Can you grab my son, or can you pick this up? I'll be there. But yet you have alcohol in your system.
You can't have that. But he was like wasted and wanted to like party all night. He had just gotten back from a Guns N' Roses show. He flew to New York. Anyway, the point is, I had to call the cops on Shannon that night because he literally tried to smash my door in of my apartment. This is the very, very early days. And that's the only most violent. I mean, he would throw shit around the room, and he'd break a mirror with his fist or something, but he never got physical with us. I have to say that was a line he never stepped over.
Yeah, no. And I could see that, because you guys were, if we're going up, we're going up together. And if we're going down, we're going down together. Meaning, like if people are going to talk shit about us, it's going to be like barroom brawl. Like I've got my brother's back. And that's what I sensed. The sad part was, like you said, it just kind of got into a tumultuous state there. And that's where it led to. So anyways, man, I appreciate it. I was going to ask if you had an open E guitar around. I wanted to hear Soup, but
I'll play Soup for you. Give me a second though.
Really?
If you have a minute, I might have to tune it.
You know what? If you do, then that could be an ultimate respect to my friend that I lost, man.
Let's do it. Give me a minute.
Right. Yeah, man. Sure.
Let me just grab a guitar and a chair.
Sure.
Give me 1 second.
Yeah, man.
What was your buddy's name?
His name was Clayton.
Clayton. All right, man. Let's see if I can get through this for Clayton. If I screw up, Clayton's gonna have to forgive me up there. So
he'd probably be laughing off, man. He'd be laughing it off.
I like that you knew it was an open E tuning.
Yeah, no, I knew that. And I've also seen you with that guitar a ton. What's the story with that guitar?
Well, I tell you, man, I bought this about, I know when I bought it. I bought it in 2007 when the band was going to go out and tour again. And it's a 1954 Martin. I bought it for $1,000, which is a steal. And it's a parlor guitar, so it's a little smaller. So it just goes everywhere with me. And I've written more songs on this guitar than probably any other guitar.
Well, it's got a rich sound to it, right? That's why.
Great. I love it, man. It's been around a long time. It's got a lot of stories in here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right, almost there.
Oh, not a problem, dude. The fact, like I said, my friend Clayton, the fact that you would play this one for him, I remember one of the last couple tunes we rocked out to, like I said, was Chili Peppers, and I think he was jamming some Blind Melon, and that was probably one of the last couple times I saw him. So, it'd be awesome for him, for sure.
There we go. Almost there. I haven't played it in a little bit, so.
That's all right.
I could probably get through it. Let's see. All right. This goes out to Clayton, yeah?
Yeah.
Here we go, Clayton. Wherever you are.
crowd went absolutely berserk at Woodstock 94. Thank you, Christopher.
Clayton, man. That goes out to Clayton and Shannon, isn't it?
Awesome. Thank you. I knew you were going to throw Shannon's name in there because, like I said, when you lose friends like that and you were playing that, I figured it would be an homage to both of them. And
yeah, man.
And I appreciate that. That's a chapter closing in my life because, again, 23 years old, I don't know what I would have done, dude. Like there was a lot of other stuff in my life and I could have ended it. And I didn't, dude. Right. So I listened to your music and you got me through it and I appreciate you and I owe you one.
Thanks, man.
So anyways, man,
I'm hanging out with you today, man.
Yeah, it was awesome. So I want to wish you the best of luck and continue having fun making those records. I'm hoping to hear some good things from Blind Melon and things down the road.
For sure.
Stay safe. I wish your family well. If you guys ever come up around Canada, dude, like I said, I am making the bucket list for me because I need to get out to those concerts.
Yeah.
And I'm got to make sure I see Blind Melon. It's on my list.
Well, you have my email, so if we are coming through town, just shoot me an email and I'll make sure you're hooked up.
Will do, and I'll watch where you guys are playing. And if you're not up here and you are in Buffalo or Michigan or even Erie, Pennsylvania, through that way, I will connect with you. Okay, man?
That sounds great, man.
Stay safe, man.
Thanks a lot.